On how to use the type tool. Most of your articles will be pretty text heavy. Some of you will have more visuals than text, but let's go with what's standard first. In terms of your layout practice, we have this article, sorry, that's my email, that's already been created by Leela. This is an interesting article because you could keep each of these paragraphs separate because they're each a different store and kind of move them around individually, or you could treat this like one long article, which is probably most articles that will print. So I'll show you both options. In general, just a quick rule of thumb is you don't want to copy over something that's a draft into InDesign too early, because you might start editing some things here and then editing some things actually in InDesign, and then those changes won't sync up. And so you want to make sure that you're making all your changes on a Google Doc as much as possible before you move things over to InDesign. Sometimes you can't help it, but hopefully that can happen. I'm going to start by showing you how to use this as a whole article where you want all of this to work together before we do anything else. In your spread, I just have a blank spread open. We've got these guidelines. Just to remind you, for article text, instead of having one giant column that spans the whole page, if I just show you this, this is really hard for people to read because when they get to the end of a line, their eyeball has to remember where the next line is, and sometimes you can get a little bit lost. So unless your text is really big, like for a headline, you actually want to create columns. Our standardized way is to use 3 columns. So I'm going to go back to this type tool by clicking on it. You can also hit T on your keyboard. And I'm going to make 3 columns by matching it up to these guidelines. I'm not being super careful right now, but you will want to keep things pretty even. And if I put things in, if I fill with placeholder text, so I'm going to type in the top menu, all the way to the bottom, fill with placeholder text. You can kind of use this fake Latin to see what things will look like. So this is a good way to template something out before your article is done. And then the other option that you have, I didn't finish my sentence. This is what's standard, is 3 columns. The other option that you have is 2 columns, especially if half of your page is taken up with a different sidebar or something like that. There may be a reason why you want just 2 columns. If you don't have a specific reason, stick with 3. I'm going to show this to you. So by lining things up to the grid line, you have these even gutters. This is easier for your eye to read. This is still okay for your eye to read, but generally we don't want your text width to be any wider than this for this size of font. Also, you'll notice that I stopped at these margin lines, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm not going over those margin lines, so all of our pages are pretty lined up. I'm going to delete these 2 column ones and just work with these 3 column ones. I'm highlighting the text and deleting it because I want to fill it with our actual article. Let me go back here. I'm highlighting this text, Command C, and then back to InDesign, Command V. You'll notice that all of these text boxes didn't automatically fill in. And then if I zoom in, there is this little plus sign down here. This tells you that there is more text than will fit into the size of this text box, and you can see that it just cuts off mid-sentence. If you want to treat this article like one long article, you want to link your text boxes together. So that means I'm going to, in my selection tool, I'm on this selection tool, my cursor is this black triangle, I'm going to click this red plus sign, and you'll notice if I zoom in again that you get this weird cursor with the 2 chain links and then these 3 lines of text. I'm going to click the next text box that I want to link it to. This is saying that this is text box 1. Whatever doesn't fit then goes over here. I still have more overset text, so I'm going to click it again and then click this 3rd text box. Looks like I need a 4th text box, so I'm going to come over here to the type tool and I'm going to make a 4th column, and I'm going to go back to the selection tool by hitting escape and then clicking this again and then moving things over. So now all of the space means that I have extra space in this text box. That's the end of the article. One more thing that I forgot to say is I already happen to be in article copy, but all of these text boxes should be in this article copy layer. If they weren't in this article copy layer, you could drag them to wherever they need to go. Even if I move this second text box all the way over, this is still linked as a second text box. So once you have them linked, you have to be careful that they're in the right order, because as a human being who speaks English, I'm going to go from left to right. So don't make this a second text box and then move it all the way to the end, because the article won't make sense. The other thing that I want to say here is I want to highlight all of these. And then I want to start with object styles and come down here to article copy frame. What I've done and what Nisaya has done is created the standardized frame. So for your general text, there's this little bit of padding around this frame. And then also, just to double check, I'm going to make this article copy, but it should already be there. If you hit this object style, every single page will make the font and the font size and the font type exactly the same. The other thing that this does is that it aligns all of the text to a baseline grid. So I'm going to go to View, Grid and Guidelines, Show Baseline Grid. These blue, what looks like lined paper lines, means that across your text boxes, all of your text is lined up, so I don't have to minutely adjust every single text box. And when I go to preview this, you'll see that all of this text is nicely aligned all the way across, and I don't have to adjust any of that. I like to hide the baseline grid. If something is moving a little wonkily, it might be because of that, but it should be okay. From here, I also want to mention, go back to what I was saying before, where some of you might want to treat each of these paragraphs separately because you have a photo that goes with each of these paragraphs. If that's the case, you want to go back to your type tool, and let's just say I want to take this first store, so you have your lead, and then let's say we just want this strictly vinyl record. I'm going to copy just this, and it wouldn't make sense here if you're moving this text with a photo or something to link all of this together, and I would copy and paste this in. I'm again in article copy. I should not be in no object style, but I should be in article copy frame, and I'm going to double click on this bottom box size to make it exactly fit my text. Now I can move just this text with my with a photo or something, and I know I'm not going to accidentally like move this text box and pick up another part of the paragraph. So you might also want to keep them all separate. If this were the case, I might rename this to, I'm triple clicking, to strictly vinyl. Can I spell vinyl? I-N-Y-L. And then I know that that's what this paragraph is. I don't want this right now, so I'm going to delete it. You have more text that needs to go on this page, your headline, your byline, so I am going to hit the type tool. I want to be in headlines because I'm making a headline. I'm going to span this whole column, and I'm going to copy, Command-C, and I'm going to paste this. I'm going to get rid of the extra spaces. Clearly, this looks really silly. It should be way bigger than that. I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool, click on this text box. Instead of none or article copy, this is headline text frame. And then in paragraph styles, you want to click on headline. This is, again, our baseline. If you don't have a good reason to change your font or to do anything else, this is what we've set as being standardized for our headlines. If this is like a feature piece, you may want to change this headline to something more interesting. You can click into this, highlight it, and then change your font here. If you haven't already downloaded the font, you may need to go to Adobe Fonts again and then look through here for a font that works for your article. That's in a different video. Once you've set your text, I like to, again, shrink this text box so it's just around the headline instead of having all of this extra padding around it. It just really makes things easier to align and move around. The last piece of text that I want to move in right now, although there's also captions, is the byline. So I'm going back to the type tool. I'm in the right layer, which is headlines and bylines, and this cyan color. I'm making a text box. Back to layout practice. I'm copying and pasting Leela's name. You do, in this case, want to include the word by Leela Weber. We also have special object paragraph styles for this. So there should be no object styles, but paragraph style wise, this should be under byline. It looks like this. I'm again going to shrink this down. So I'm actually doing this from the corner. So that way the text box, if I zoom in, is just around her name. I'm going back to the type tool and I'm highlighting by. Character styles, unlike paragraph styles, are exceptions to the rule. We want these byline parts to have this style where it's in gray and it's not bolded like the names are. So you want to come in and highlight by or photo credit or whatever and go to byline parts, and it should modify that. If I go back out, this is kind of ridiculous in terms of spacing, but you have a headline, you have the right style for your byline, you have the right style for your article copy. There's no overset text. All of these things are linked together, and that's how you generally do text. All right, that's it for this video.